In the latest developments from Syria's Homs province, at least 13 individuals have been killed in a series of violent raids conducted by the Islamist militant group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, along with local gunmen. The deaths, which include 4 civilians reportedly executed during the raids, have raised alarm within the broader international community and ignited deep concerns for the safety of Syria's Shia minority. This tragic incident, which unfolded over the course of several days, has resulted in widespread destruction and heightened sectarian violence in the region. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, SHR, an organization known for its monitoring of the Syrian civil war, the attacks specifically targeted Shia-populated villages, a community that has long been caught in the crossfire of Syria's brutal conflict. The raids involved mass arrests, indiscriminate gunfire, and a range of violent acts that included the desecration of sacred sites, such as the defacement of tombstones. These actions have further fueled the sense of fear and insecurity among the Shia population, who have already been living under constant threat of sectarian violence throughout the ongoing civil war. The escalation in Homs province is part of a broader pattern of sectarian violence that has been intensifying in recent months. For years, Syria has been embroiled in a complex civil war that has pitted various groups against each other, including the Syrian government, opposition forces, Kurdish militias, and extremist factions like HTS and the Islamic State. While the conflict has often been characterized by shifting alliances and complex geopolitical dynamics, sectarian divisions have remained a constant source of tension. These divisions have only deepened in recent years, particularly as HTS, a group originally affiliated with al-Qaeda but now operating independently in northern Syria, has increasingly targeted minority communities, including the Shia. Shia communities in Syria, particularly in areas such as Homs and the larger region of Hama, have long been supporters of the Assad government. The Syrian president, Bashar al-Assad, who belongs to the Alawite sect of Shia Islam, has relied on the support of his sectarian base to maintain power throughout the war. The Alawite-Shia alliance has played a critical role in the Syrian government's survival, with many Shia Muslims in Syria fearing that a loss of government control would lead to even greater persecution at the hands of Sunni-majority opposition forces. This has made them primary targets for groups like HTS, who view the Shia population as apostates deserving of punishment. The nature of the raids in Homs is a stark reflection of the current state of the conflict in Syria. According to SOHR reports, HTS militants, supported by local gunmen, stormed Shia-populated villages in a coordinated attack. The groups targeted not only civilians, but also government supporters and fighters believed to be aligned with Assad's forces. In addition to the killing of civilians, dozens of individuals have been reported missing or taken into captivity. These mass arrests, often conducted under the cover of night, have instilled deep fear among the local population, who now face the prospect of torture, forced disappearances, or worse at the hands of their captors. The situation has been further exacerbated by the desecration of tombstones and other religious symbols. These acts of sacrilege are often used by militant groups as a way to signal their ideological and sectarian dominance. For the Shia population, the defacement of their religious sites represents a powerful and painful reminder of the brutal reality they face in a war-torn country where their identity is constantly under siege. The loss of these sacred symbols, some of which have been in place for centuries, only serves to deepen the sense of cultural and religious erasure felt by the community. As news of the raids and executions spread, there has been growing international condemnation of the violence, with calls for accountability and justice for the victims. Human rights organizations have urged the international community to take stronger action to address the worsening sectarian violence in Syria, emphasizing the need for protection of minority communities caught in the crossfire. However, despite these calls, the reality on the ground remains dire, with no clear path forward for the Shia community or other minorities facing similar threats from extremist factions like HTS. The recent escalation of violence in Homs underscores the fragility of the current situation in Syria. While the government of Bashar al-Assad has regained control over much of the country with the support of Russia and Iran, the war is far from over. Areas outside of government control remain volatile, with groups like HTS continuing to fight for dominance and with local militias vying for control of key territories. These groups, fueled by radical ideologies and sectarian animosities, are unlikely to back down anytime soon, further entrenching the cycle of violence that has plagued Syria for nearly a decade. For the Shia population in Syria, these developments are part of a broader pattern of persecution and displacement. Many have been forced to flee their homes in search of safety, while others have been displaced within the country or into neighboring Lebanon and Iraq. The fear of being caught in the crossfire between warring factions, along with the constant threat of attacks on their homes and places of worship, has made daily life unbearable for many. The uncertainty surrounding the future of the conflict only adds to the despair of those who have already lost so much. In response to the violence, the international community has called for a renewed focus on peace talks, though these efforts have proven difficult to advance due to the entrenched positions of the various factions. The United Nations and other diplomatic bodies have attempted to broker ceasefire agreements and humanitarian aid deliveries, but these efforts have been hampered by the ongoing hostilities and the lack of trust between the warring parties. As the war in Syria continues, the international community faces the daunting task of finding a way to restore peace and stability to a country that has been torn apart by years of sectarian strife and violence. The future of Syria remains uncertain, and the situation for the Shia minority in particular appears bleak. As the attacks in Homs and other regions of Syria continue to unfold, the Shia population, already vulnerable due to their affiliation with the Assad regime, faces increased danger. The brutality of the raids, the execution of civilians, and the desecration of religious sites all signal a growing trend of sectarian violence that threatens not only the lives of those directly affected, but also the very fabric of Syrian society. The hope for a peaceful resolution to the conflict remains distant, and for many in Syria's Shia community, the road ahead looks perilous. As the international community watches from the sidelines, the people of Syria continue to suffer, caught in the middle of a war that shows no signs of abating anytime soon. The horrific events in Homs are just one more chapter in a long history of violence that has devastated the country, and without meaningful intervention, it is likely that the cycle of bloodshed will continue to claim countless more lives.